So here we are at the back of the Ghost, and I have to say I haven't felt this important in quite a long time. I've got my own private driver who's definitely not named Chad. We'll call him Giles for this particular insert. But again, as I emphasized while I was driving the car, suspension on this car is just unbelievable.
Search AutoTrader.
This is the Rolls-Royce Ghost, the cheapest new Rolls-Royce that you can buy in South Africa, and in my opinion, the best looking one too. Far more understated, but still distinctively a Rolls-Royce than the likes of the Phantom and the Cullinan. Doesn't mean it's small though, over 5.5 meters long, over 2 meters wide, and a wheelbase of over 3 meters. Outside aside, I think the interior is the most important part of any Rolls-Royce. Let's hop inside and see what the Ghost has to offer. Stepping inside the Ghost, and well, what else is there to say but the quality is just unbelievable. In other cars where you'd expect plastic, there's just pieces of metal. This air vent, metal. This glove compartment lid has got metal. It's just quality everywhere. There's leather, there's wood, there's metal. It just feels like it is so solid, and I mean that does contribute to the curb weight, 2.5 tons. But got soundproofing, you've got a load of features and lots of premium materials. Now, with other Rolls-Royce products, they do promote it to be chauffeur driven. Now, the Ghost being a more attainable Rolls-Royce, the brand has catered for those who want to drive the car, and Rolls-Royce themselves do encourage the owner to drive their Ghost, and as such, the cockpit is slightly more driver-centric. We've got an iDrive, BMW iDrive based infotainment system. It's reskinned to include Rolls-Royce graphics and such, but it functions very much like an iDrive system, which is good. To have a mass market infotainment system, it means it works, it's proven, and it has a track record. Other niceties inside here, you've got the climate control system, which hasn't got fan speed. It's got things like soft, medium, high, and max. Nothing is ostentatious about the interior. It's all subtle and very, very well executed. But for those who want to be chauffeur driven in a Ghost, let's check out the back and see what it has to offer. Now, the rear of the Ghost, as you might imagine, is quite luxurious. Not quite as big as the Phantom, but not exactly cramped for space here. In terms of entertainment for the occupants, I'm in the best seat, so I can adjust the passenger seat here, move it forward, and then I can sort of recline and adjust my seat. I've also got this tray and a little infotainment screen that I can control via another iDrive style toggle switch here, which allows me to adjust media and various vehicle settings. I've got my climate control back here. I've also got the Starry Night headliner, and probably the softest and most supple cushion that you could possibly imagine at the back here. Also got a fridge, naturally, because you'd need to chill the champagne that you're drinking while you drive in your 12 million rand Rolls-Royce. There's also bespoke audio by Rolls-Royce, where I was playing the Black Coffee music earlier, and I have to say, what an epic place to sit. The carpeting, the quality, just the general ambience inside here is really second to none from what I've experienced. But since this is the Rolls-Royce to drive, let's head out on the road and see what the Ghost is like. So here we are on board the Rolls-Royce Ghost. Now, this is an internal combustion powered Rolls-Royce, and I say that because the brand is shifting towards EV with products like the Spectre. Still, I think one of the coolest names ever given to a car. But if you think about the ethos of Rolls-Royce, it really makes sense for them to go EV. They've been trying to make their powertrains and gearboxes as fuss-free, quiet and refined as possible for decades. So the EV powertrain really makes sense for them because it is inherently just more quiet. But there is something quite cool about having a V12. Now this particular Ghost has got a 6 3/4 litre, so 6.75 litre twin turbo V12 petrol engine. Produces 420 kilowatts and 850 newton meters of torque. Now this is a 2.5 ton car without me on board, and well, performance is still relatively brisk. Remember, it's over 5.5 meters long, 2.2 meters wide. It is a very big thing to pilot around, but still got a reasonable turn of speed. 0 to 100 claimed at about 4.8 seconds, but it's not really designed for performance. It's more sort of effortless progress. And I think what Rolls-Royce have done that is particularly impressive with the Ghost is suspension. Now, this car has got a 3-prong approach from what I've seen that makes its suspension system more impressive than any other car I've ever encountered from a comfort perspective. So in addition to air suspension, this car's also got an additional damper on top of the wishbone, which means it's essentially double damped. That takes away small bumps and vibrations at low speed, while the air suspension soaks up the bigger stuff. It really is the most supple ride quality, well, ever. So then there's also a camera system which scans the road up ahead and prepares the dampers for the prevailing road conditions. Couple that with the fact that there is a GPS linked to the gearbox, which can tell when there's going to be a curve coming up, or again, what kind of road conditions are ahead. You've got a suspension and gearbox that talk to each other and that prepare you for the road ahead. That means that this is pretty much as comfortable, quiet and refined as you would really like a car to be. And as a tool to drive, because again, as I mentioned when we were speaking about the car before driving it, this is really something that Rolls-Royce is trying to get across, that yes, this is a car that you can be driven in, but it's also a Rolls because it's on the more attainable end of things at 12 million rand. I don't know who it's attainable to, but it is the most attainable of the Rolls-Royce model. So what is the Ghost like to drive? We've gone through the engine and that impressive suspension system and the fact that, well, this is a car that Rolls-Royce wants you to drive and obviously an option to be driven in. But what is it actually like to drive a Rolls-Royce? Well, I'm very much aware of the weight. I'm very much aware of the size, but at the same time, it starts to become a bit more palatable. You get used to the size and just the general weight and heft of the thing. It's actually very pleasant to drive. It's a very soothing, quiet, calming experience. I don't think I've been in something that is quite as isolated as this since, well, the last Rolls-Royce I drove, which is a Cullinan. And I have to say, I much prefer this to the Cullinan. I find the Cullinan to not be the best looking car, slightly ostentatious in my opinion. This Ghost really represents to me what a modern Rolls-Royce should be. You've still got the V12, you've still got some of that heritage, it's got the understated class that is associated with the brand, but at the same time, there is a degree of modernity to being inside here. You've got the absolute latest in-car tech, in terms of Apple CarPlay, but that's also juxtapositioned next to, you know, fine leather and wood trim with metal everywhere, which is quite cool, I think. But it's not all sunshine and rainbows. You see, the Ghost is nearly 3 years old within the market. The first reviews from journalists came out 3 years ago, so we're not exactly breaking new ground by reviewing a Ghost here, but the opportunity came up, and I think it's a bit silly to refuse when Rolls-Royce offer you a vehicle to drive. So here we are in the Ghost, and there's some things that I think the brand has addressed with the upcoming Spectre that this car is potentially missing, and that really comes down to the infotainment. Now, it is basically a BMW iDrive system, and it works very well, functions well, it's pretty fast, computing power, speed and resolution is pretty good for the system, but it seems quite small now, doesn't it? This screen compared to what we're seeing in even Bucky's like a Ford Ranger have got a massive 12-inch screen as an option now. This seems quite small in comparison. But I suppose there is a degree of analog charm to the Ghost. There is this idea that, yes, there is some modern convenience and some massively sophisticated suspension, but at the end of the day, they still really want this car to be something that appeals to old world luxury. It's just luxurious for the sake of it. It's comfortable because it is reasonably simple. It's not this massive hyper or giga screen festooned luxury car that's powered by electricity alone. It's an old V12 burning petrol and using some sort of more old school charm in terms of its interior to deliver a luxury experience that, well, it's really hard to replicate. I don't think there's too many cars on earth that will give you the same kind of experience as this. Now, as a tool to drive, not the sharpest, not the most exciting, but it's really just not designed for that. This instrument cluster houses a power reserve gauge. Doesn't tell you what your RPM is. It just says, well, there's your speed and how much power you have in reserve. At the moment, I have more than 90% of my power in reserve. It shows you what they're going for. The gearbox, for example, has got a low setting, which is equivalent to a sport setting in other gearboxes, where it will just hold a lower gear and allow the car to rev out a bit more in dynamic driving situations. When you do get on with it a bit and push it a bit, it does go very nicely, the Ghost. It's not by any stretch of the imagination a fast car by modern terms. It's just brisk. That's when I spoke to the Rolls-Royce representative in South Africa, he summed it up. He said it's brisk, and after driving it, I have to agree with the man. He says it's brisk. I agree with you. It is a brisk car. It's fast enough, and that's really the end of it in terms of performance. If you want a faster one, you can get a black badge, which is their Rolls-Royce version of a sort of performance car, but I don't really think it's necessary in a Rolls-Royce, right? You buy a car like this because it offers comfort, luxury, and the sort of status that other brands just can't offer. I mean, if you're driving a Rolls-Royce, people know you have money. Really, they do. It's quite a flex to drive around in a Rolls-Royce. Even this base model Ghost, I mean, it's not quite the price that you can get Cullinans and Phantoms for, but you know, with some spec, you're still well over 10 million Rand, which is something that I can't even fathom paying for a car. But now that we've had a go up front driving the car, I think let's have a quick go in the back and see what it's like if you're just sitting at the back as a passenger. So here we are at the back of the Ghost, and I have to say I haven't felt this important in quite a long time. I've got my own private driver who's definitely not named Chad. We'll call him Giles for this particular insert. But again, as I emphasized while I was driving the car, suspension on this car is just unbelievable. So soft, so supple, just absorbs the bumps so well. No cabin intrusion to speak of. It's just so quiet and refined in here. And when you're at the back, I could really see myself doing a bit of work. Maybe the future company car. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Let's check out this iDrive here. So I've got my own screen in front of me. I can fiddle with various media functions, and I can even move passenger seat in front of me forward. Just, you know, give myself a bit more legroom. Not that I need it, but if I was a bit taller, maybe. Other than that, really, what else is there to say? This is about as luxurious as I'd like my drive to be. This cushion behind my head is incredibly soft and just a wonderful place to spend my time. And I suppose that's going to do it for this review, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button if you've enjoyed this content, and leave us a comment below letting us know what you'd like us to test next. If you're looking to buy or sell your car, search AutoTrader. We also have a new car buying service called Instant Offer. Check that out on our website. Until next time, cheers.
Search AutoTrader.